Hi, I'm Mike with House on the Mend, and in this video I'm going to show you how I took a standard attic access, installed this really nice insulated aluminum attic storage ladder, and installed 88 square foot of OSB flooring for storage. So let's get started. House on the Mend. Well, let's pull the ladder down. This is all aluminum made by Louisville Ladder. It is insulated right here to try to keep some of the heat from the house from escaping up into the attic. Let's go up and I'll show you what it looks like, and if you're interested, you can install one for yourself. Nice. Let's have a very quick discussion on the different widths of attic ladders available for purchase so I can give you kind of a word of caution if you're going to do this yourself. So I purchased the 22.5-inch wide attic ladder from Louisville Ladders. And the reason for that is your standard attic trusses for your ceiling are 24 inches on center, and that equates to 22.5 inches wide. So if you purchase a 25 or 30-inch wide ladder, as you see in these pictures, readily available, you're going to have to cut a good almost 5 feet of one of your ceiling trusses out and then reframe that area to accommodate that wider attic ladder. And I have done that for customers before, and it is a tremendous amount of labor for the gain of only like 3 to 8 inches of actual usable space when you're going up and down the ladder. Now, as you can see in this picture, your standard storage tote is about 18 to 20 inches wide, and that will easily fit through this 20-inch wide opening if you come just this way of all of that bracketry. So now let me walk you through how I installed this almost completely by myself. I knew this project would take me several days to complete, so I decided to work through the existing opening to bring up the lumber and the plywood so I could use the existing drywall and insulation piece to close the opening each night when I was done working. Over the years of installing attic ladders, I have found it is way easier to bring up flooring and materials straight through the rough opening rather than be restricted by the angle of the installed ladder. First, I removed the existing blocking and trim. I then measured for the rough length and installed new blocking with structural screws and corner brackets. I then turned my attention to the area over the garage I would use for storage. So let's show you the setup. The majority of the actual living space has right around 18 inches, 17, 18 inches of insulation. So that continues on to this side, and then as you can see, drops off right at the garage. And the garage insulation, by code, it's not required to have any, but the garage insulation is basically just kissing above the rafters heading out over the garage. So I don't want to crush this area down here every time I bring up a storage bin. So what I'm going to do is raise above that on these first 3 rafters. So I have our Dovo laser level set up every time I need help in this manner, and I'm using construction adhesive and GRK screws. I also have my Tylee work gloves that I am working on a review of, as well as a respirator since I don't want to breathe in all this stuff. A couple more pieces to go, then we're gonna sheathe across this and kind of box it in so we don't ever lose all this insulation. And then we'll get started bringing up sheets to make that a storage area. And once we're all done with that, this area that I have blocked out right here can be cut out or cut back with the sheetrock, and we can put in the actual attic ladder. All right, we have the platform all installed. It's been glued and screwed into place. And the next thing we're going to do is come across. There's the drop off down to the actual ceiling joists and the rafters there. We are going to take these boards that I cut. We're going to move this wiring here and there, probably cut grooves for the wiring that goes across some of them, and we are going to glue and screw these down into place like this. Not this way, but this way, so that the screws can go through them. Once we do that, we'll be ready to sheathe the area for our storage. As you can see here, the horizontally mounted studs rise just above the blown insulation. Because of the steep angles of the truss bracing, it was clear I would not be able to bring up a full sheet of OSB, so I cut them in half lengthwise into 2-foot by 8-foot strips. I shot a vertical laser straight down the middle so I could mark the boards to help line up the OSB flooring later. Then it was time to bring up the plywood sheets. I secured them with construction adhesive and GRK screws. The day finally came for the ladder install. I used a rotary tool and a shop vac to cut the drywall back to the blocking I had installed earlier. Ladder installs vary depending on the brand. The Louisville ladder I chose requires 2 boards to be installed across the opening. Since I pre-painted the ladder door ahead of time, I decided to wrap the boards with paper to protect the finish. I then lifted the ladder into the attic and set it on the support boards to hold it flush with the ceiling. While I installed shims, pre-drilled, and drove in the supplied lag bolts. Unless you have another way out of your attic, you will need a helper below to remove the 2 support boards and move the ladder you used to climb up into the attic out of the way.
Good job. Good job, kid.
There we go.
Good job. There we go. Okay, is that stable up there?
Yep.
Okay.
Then you can open the attic ladder and test the door.
Watch your eyes in case there's debris on here. And there we go.
All right. It looks so good.
Isn't it going to look
It looks
nice?
so much sturdier than that old rickety one that had to be cut.
I love it.
Yeah.
And if you look,
really good.
if you look at the angle, it's going to be like right there. It's not going to protrude into the hallway, so we'll be able to easily carry things in and up and down and wherever for changes in seasons. It's just going to be great.
Yeah.
All right, I have the rope and the handle that comes with it on temporarily so we can just check the fit before I put the rest of the lag bolts in. So let's let it go and see if it goes in smooth. Yes, no racking. Nice and square. After that, I drove the rest of the lag bolts in, which were inaccessible with the door closed. Look at that, 50% of this battery left. This is the same battery I switched out during my review of the Lively Impact wrench. And since I switched it out about 3/4 of the way through that video, I've put all of these screws in and all of these lag bolts on that same battery, and it's still at 50%. That's just amazing. All right, that gap in the ladder hinge right there tells us that we are gonna have to cut the legs off right at this pre-marked spot here, and then we'll be able to bolt on the rubberized feet. Then I cut the protruding shims and installed some MDF trim using standard 90-degree miter joints. I had to mark and cut around a can light. Only problem when cutting MDF is this area here will soak up the paint much more than the finish it was originally manufactured with. So a little bit of wood glue and water can seal this area, or in this case I'm just gonna spread some of the same caulk we're gonna use to trim it out right into that exposed MDF material. And I think it turned out nice. After caulking the trim on the ceiling, I used spray foam to fill the gaps between the ladder assembly and the trusses. Then I wired in the same LED faux can lights I've been using in the basement videos. If you're an egghead like me and wondering what the difference in the temperature is on this insulated attic ladder, as you can see here with my infrared gun, there is about a 5 to 14 degree difference depending on the bare metal or the insulated wood panels from the rest of the insulated ceiling down here in the heated space. Now, after caulking the perimeter of the trim, I filled in all the nail holes with spackle, then I sanded and painted the trim, and I think it turned out great. It's very similar to the door casing. You can go as detailed and as fancy as you want, or as plain, totally up to you. Now, instead of the rope with a plastic handle that came with the attic ladder, I elected to put in this threaded little eyelet. It went through the same hole that the rope would go through. And then on this piece of just normal wooden closet rod, I put a threaded hook. And that way when we're done and it's closed, which obviously is going to be most of the time, you won't be dealing with that dangling rope and handle. Now, I like to climb the ladder and see where the best spot is intuitively for the light switch. And there you go, a great project to give yourself a bunch of storage in an area that otherwise would be pretty underutilized. Now, this little peak right here in the truss gives us enough room that I can pretty comfortably bend over and walk. I can stand up here too, but to walk back and forth, I need to bend over. So this foot area, I'm going to leave open for us to go back and forth to get things out of all the storage bins. But over here, if you figure this is 3 feet wide, 22 feet long, and we can go 6 feet tall, or even a little bit more high in storage space, that's going to give us close to 400 cubic feet, which is your standard small storage unit that you would pay for on a monthly basis. And I think that's great when you consider this is about $450 in materials. So if you found this video helpful, will you please give it a thumbs up? It's really helpful to the channel. Also, please consider subscribing. I'm working really hard to put out good quality DIY videos as well as tool reviews, and there's a lot more of each to come. I'm going to leave links to pretty much everything that I used here other than the sheet goods and the 2x4s, which you can buy at any hardware store. Now, full disclosure, most of those links are going to be Amazon affiliate links, so if you click on them and end up making a purchase of any kind, it won't cost you a thing, but I do get a small reward at the end of the month. Until next time, thank you for watching.